Candidate is a mental and physical basket case. There's never been anything like it. He's also the worst president in the history of our country. He went on a very poorly rated show last night, and he talked about Donald Trump and his wife. I don't know the name of my wife. He was referring to the fact that at CPAC, where I had a sold-out speech, the biggest audience they've had in years, I think maybe ever, I made the statement that Melania was very popular because when I mentioned her name, the audience went wild. I then looked at the two people, man and wife, Matt and Mercedes Schlapp, and I said, wow, they really like the First Lady. So this got taken as the fact that I thought Mercedes was the First Lady. It has nothing to do with that. These people are really dishonest. They are absolutely something. They have a horrible candidate who's a horrible president. They make up things constantly. You take a look at when I use Barack Hussein Obama and I interject him into where it's supposed to be Biden, and I do it purposely for comedic reasons and for sarcasm, because a lot of people say that Obama's running the country, not Biden, because he's sleeping all the time. They say, oh, I don't know the name of the president. Or when I imitate this guy getting off a stage, what they do is they say, oh, he had trouble getting off a stage. I have no trouble getting off a stage. Anybody that watches what I do at rallies would say, wow, that's amazing. He can go 2 hours without a teleprompter, not making even a little mistake. Very few people, maybe almost nobody, can do what I do. So here's the story. The disinformation of the Democrats is unbelievable. They do it because they have a horrible candidate. Don't associate me with the mental midget that you portray, because I want to tell you, he should not be leading this country. And hopefully on November 5th, he's not going to be. We're going to have a big election. We're going to have a big victory, and we're going to make America great again. Thank you.
President Trump, they're stating the facts, setting the fools straight, and leading as he should in all matters political, and reminding those who need reminding just who President Trump really is. And it's great to see. The investigating committees of Judiciary and Oversight held a joint closed-door hearing to take the testimony of Joe Biden's son, Hunter. And our guest tonight is Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, who leads that congressional investigation. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us here. You have
My pleasure.
A very busy schedule as usual. Well, thank you for that. And I want to start with just, first of all, your impressions of Hunter Biden's performance before your joint committees.
Well, the House rules prohibit us from getting into specifics, but I can say this. There were a number of things that he said that were just directly contradictory to what we got from other witnesses and frankly, from some of the evidence we've seen. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway I got from it. I think also it sort of provides us some, I think, valuable information, sort of a roadmap, if you will, if in fact we have a public hearing, which we're discussing now. So that was my main takeaway. But nothing Hunter Biden said yesterday, I think, changes the fundamental facts of the Bidens were peddling this. I call it the money, the business, the brand. It was access to the brand that I think has been so critical. And that's what they had all these companies doing, all this money coming in. And then the case study, I think, the most telling case study, of course, is the actions then Vice President Biden took relative to the prosecutor in Ukraine and the pressure that prosecutor was applying to Burisma, the company Hunter Biden sat on the board of and was paid $1 million a year, when the vice president leveraged and conditioned the release of American tax money on the firing of that very prosecutor. I think that's the case study and how this all kind of fits together.
And your reaction when Hunter Biden began in his opening statement by saying that his father didn't have anything to do with his business dealings?
Well, there's numerous phone calls. We knew that from Devin Archer. There's pictures of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and his business partners on the golf course. There's testimony that says Joe Biden stopped by lunches and had dinners with foreign individuals who Hunter Biden and his partners were doing business with. So that doesn't seem to square with, again, what we've heard from previous witnesses. Some of those witnesses were, in fact, partners. I mean, Devin Archer, Rob Walker, partners of Hunter Biden, and that's what they've testified to. So, again, I can't get into all the specifics of yesterday's testimony until we actually release the transcript, because those are the House rules.
And as you listen to Hunter Biden respond, there was great interest, of course, in whether or not he would acknowledge the fact that this was a contest for democracy, making some remarkable statements before the hearing, saying that his sobriety was key to the survival of democracy. I've never heard such an outlandish statement or such a narcissistic statement by, I can't remember one that would top that.
Yeah, here's what I know about statements, too. Statements from the White House and statements from David Weiss and the Justice Department keep changing. I mean, remember what Joe Biden told us a few years ago. He said, I never spoke to my son about any of his business dealings. Well, then that changed to the White House saying, well, Joe Biden was never in business with his son. And then, of course, late last year when Hunter Biden failed to appear when we had subpoenaed him to come in and testify, he said in his press conference, my father was never financially involved in my business. So their story keeps changing. David Weiss and the Justice Department on how they've handled this investigation and what authorities they had, that keeps changing. But one thing I've noticed is the whistleblower's testimony has not wavered. It has not changed, and they've stood up to a cross-examination. Tony Bobolinsky, who came forward 4 years ago, his testimony, his statements have not changed, and I think stood up to examination when he came in for his deposition. So, yeah, you get some statements from the Bidens and the White House and from the Justice Department that don't seem to be too consistent.
And talking about Bobolinsky, his early statements back in the earliest days of this mess, right after the election, in point of fact, he had more insight into what was going on, and had anyone really listened to him, and I'm talking about in the national news media, history might have been changed. What do you think?
Well, yeah, because this happened in the context of the presidential election. Things that Tony Bobolinsky said that were not really reported or even much covered by the mainstream media. Right. And then, of course, you couple that with this false narrative about the Hunter Biden laptop, where 51 former Intel officials put together a statement that said this has all the earmarks of a Russian information operation, which was baloney. And then that got peddled by the mainstream press, and polling and common sense tell us that if the American people had known the truth about the laptop at the time, it would have likely changed the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. So, yeah, those are all concerns about how things were reported. False information was given to we the people in the run-up to the most important election we have, election for president.
Absolutely. And then it comes full circle here these years later. And the Democrats are right now saying that you are being taken by Russian propaganda. They don't seem to have another tool in their box, do they? This is always about Russian propaganda, and it shows a certain affection for the propaganda that the Dems gin up and spread across this country, because this came from the DNC and from the Clinton campaign originally.
Yeah, 2016, it was, Trump colluded with Russia, and we had a $30 million investigation by Robert Mueller with 19 lawyers and 40 agents and all this. And they found nothing because there was nothing there. There was no collusion, no coordination, no conspiracy whatsoever. Then in 2020 is what I just talked about. It was, the laptop was a Russian information operation, which was baloney. And now they're trying it again. I guess they just, here we go one more time. So the Democrats have the same old playbook. I think the American people are smart. And the American people also see, frankly, that what we had under President Trump was a president who could project strength from the Oval Office, who did what he said he was going to do. We had a roaring economy, a secure border. We had $2 gas, not $4 gas. And now we compare that to Joe Biden. And I think the American people are going to put President Trump back in the White House.
Well, I think you're right about that. Certainly, I agree with the assessment that he is absolutely critical to this country's continued existence. I want to turn to the House Republicans, the subpoena for the Joe Biden special counsel records and the importance of those in the congressional investigation.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Hur, special counsel, in his report, in his investigation, says Joe Biden willfully, intentionally, deliberately took classified documents, mishandled classified documents over a period of over decades of time while he was in the Senate, while he was vice president. He willfully, intentionally did that. Then he willfully, intentionally, deliberately gave that information, some of that classified material, to his ghostwriter who was writing his book. And yet Robert Hur says, I'm not going to prosecute because Joe Biden is an old guy who can't remember and will be sympathetic to a jury. And the Democrats have said, oh, well, that's you can't say that, Mr. Special Counsel. That's gratuitous comments about the president's state of mind and his forgetfulness. You can't say that because it's not true. Well, what we've said is give us the material. Let us see. Let the American people see the audio tapes of how, when you interviewed Joe Biden, what he had to say, and other documents that you used, Mr. Hur, in your investigation. So that's why we've asked for that information. We think the American people, you got two different perspectives here. We think the American people are entitled to see.
And an additional data point, we have the president's annual physical. His doctor, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, saying that he is in very good shape and that he has no new ailments from the last physical a year ago. But he did not advise a cognitive test. Your thoughts about that omission from his overall examination?
I mean, I leave that up to the White House and to the Biden family and the president in his position. But what I do know is what we the people of this great country, and frankly, I think foreign heads of state, what we all see. And it's sad. And I don't like to talk about it because you want your president, even though I disagree with Joe Biden's policies and positions, you want the president of our country, the greatest country ever, to be up to the task. But I think anyone with common sense can frankly see that he's just not. And it's sad, but it's a reality. And it's part of what Robert Hur said in his report. And so it's, again, we go back to why we think this information is important for us to have, and more importantly, for the American people to see.
Yeah, and it is interesting, the difference, a contradictory view about who asked which question, and indeed even the answers that were forthcoming from the president. I have to say I agree with you about not even liking to talk about Joe Biden, his infirmity, his impairment. But I also think it's important that we understand just what is at stake here for the American people I'm referring to.
Well said.
Because we are in dangerous times, and I would be delighted if all of this nation's enemies would stall until we can get President Trump into the White House, because this is a vulnerability to our national security, this White House, that I don't like to contemplate.
Well,
your thoughts?
I mean, I got asked a question by a reporter a while back. Can you name some good policy the Biden administration has done? And I actually stopped and thought about it for a second. And you reached the conclusion. I can't name one positive thing, because everything, secure border to no border, safe streets, record crime, $2 gas to $4 gas, stable prices to record inflation, projecting weakness, the debacle that was the exit from Afghanistan, the weaponization of government against we the people. You could just keep going. It's been a complete disaster. But maybe the scariest thing is what's happened to the border. This Laken Riley situation, when Joe Biden just has an open border and people come in and then they do something wrong and local prosecutors don't hold them accountable and they're released, and then they do something terrible like what happened, this tragedy that happened to this young lady in Georgia. And then this is how bad it's gotten under Joe Biden. And I think the American people have had it. And I do think they're going to show up in a big way this coming fall and put President Trump, as I said before, back in the White House.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Coming up, should the House GOP cancel Biden's State of the Union address? Republican Congressman Scott Perry argues they should. After all, Biden is a liar. Nothing he says is true or worth listening to. That is, if you can even understand what he's saying. Plus, James O'Keefe Media Group confronting total creep New York Judge Arthur Engeron. after sources tell O'Keefe just where Engeron is and why he frequently goes to that gym early in the morning. Is he creeping girls out? That's straight ahead.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back. Joe Biden recently underwent a physical examination. White House Dr. Kevin O'Connor concluded that Joe Biden continues to be fit for duty. Nothing to see here. Biden is a picture of health and vitality. Just watch Joe as he flawlessly delivers this line from Abraham Lincoln.
And you know, stand here in front of this portrait of the man behind me here. He said, and I want to make sure I get the quote exactly right. He said, the better angels, he said, we must address the council and address the better angels of our nature. And we do well to remember what else he said. He said, we're not enemies, but we're friends. It's in the part of the Civil War. He said, we're not enemies, but we're friends. We must not be enemies. Folks, and I've been around, I know I don't look it, I've been around a long while though. And I mean this sincerely. Politics has gotten too bitter.
Well, we've got to be sure to remember what we've forgotten. I can't remember how he said it. You know what I mean. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Incredible. Not only did Biden butcher it, he also messed up the context. Lincoln gave that speech in March of 1861. Is it any wonder 67% of Americans disagree with O'Connor's assessment? A recent Quinnipiac University poll showed that most people think Joe is too old, too senile for another term. But you don't need a survey to know that, just your lying eyes. Well, what's the White House doing to win the hearts and minds of the worried? Biden is paying a visit to the U.S.-Mexico border, where a crisis of his making continues and worsens. The president wants to show Americans that he's alert and aware of their concerns. But there's just a problem, one problem. Biden is going to Brownsville, Texas. It's one of the sleepiest sectors of the entire 2,000-mile border. That might be more Sleepy Joe's speed, but it's not representative of the crisis on the Mexican drug cartel's border, as he has turned it over to them. Donald Trump also at the border. He's set to visit Eagle Pass, Texas, where over 2,000 illegals were apprehended in the past week. In contrast, just 46 illegals were apprehended in Brownsville in that same period. Biden is mentally spaced out, but his team certainly is not. They're sharp as the Dickens. They're right here on Earth, grappling with the gravity of his sinking re-election. And Biden, they know that immigration will be the issue to kill his campaign. More Americans want the border wall now than ever. That, according to a new Monmouth University poll, that's 8 in 10 adults. That's why they're resorting to desperate measures like paying off college student debt. And here it is from the horse's mouth, as it were, by which we mean Vice President Kamala Harris's statement.
Have under the Federal Work Study program now allows students to get paid through Federal Work Study to register people and to be nonpartisan poll workers. As we know, this is important for a number of reasons. One, to engage our young leaders in this process and activate them in terms of their ability to strengthen our.
What they're doing used to be called walking around money, buying votes, and that's exactly what they're doing. Biden's camp is essentially buying votes in broad daylight. If we could capture all of this in a single word, it would be utter, sheer madness. I know that's more than one word. Every word out of Biden's mouth, if it's coherent at all, has been a mad lie. Every policy of his administration at odds with the well-being of this country. Every day, his goons shred what remains of our Constitution. That's why Congressman Scott Perry of Pennsylvania says the House of Representatives should be canceling Biden's State of the Union. We know what the state is. It's sorry, it's sad, and it's all thanks to Biden. Congressman Scott Perry joins us now. And Congressman, great to have you with us. I want to
Great
start
to be with you, Lou.
First of all, your idea. Oh, it's great to have you here. I want to start with your idea of telling the president no State of the Union address. What inspired you to make that, to come up with that?
Well, let me just be clear here, Lou. I think all Americans deserve to have a president that's willing to stand before them and be held accountable. The question is where that happens. Now, as you probably know, he can only come to the legislature. He's in the executive branch. We're in the legislative branch. If he's invited to come. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't be invited, but what I think I am saying is it would be a slight, and I think it's the height of arrogance and contempt for the American people to come and do the State of the Union address in the halls of Congress and then blame other people for the things that he has done to destroy our country. And so that's what I think is most important. All of us need to be able to hold every single elected official accountable. And he should stand to be held for account for what he's done over the last 3+ years to our country.
I think you're right. He should be held to account. I guess my only quibble might be, is that actually doing that by having him not stand up there and give the State of the Union address. I think there might be more, frankly, a more entertainment value if he were to stand up there and try to speak to the nation about the urgent matters that confront us. But as you suggest, there's also a certain, certain weight to what you're recommending. What do your colleagues think?
Just let me be clear. I was answering a question about some legislation to stop him from coming if he doesn't produce a budget, which he's required to do. The president is also required to give the State of the Union on a regular basis. Constitutionally, he's required to do that. It's just how he does that. And again, he comes at the invitation of the legislature, but he shouldn't use that as an opportunity to blame other people and the American people for his failings.
Well, I'm not sure that cleared it up, to be honest with you, Congressman. As a matter of fact, it gave it a little more depth, but I have to say, we know who's to blame. There's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys in Congress, let's be really clear. Let me be really clear, Congressman.
Okay.
We know what's going on in Congress. The American people know that. They're waking up. I'm not sure Congress is. I mean, we're watching another continuing resolution. We're watching a Congress that still hasn't come up with any approach to the border. It isn't their job, but nonetheless, they haven't really weighed in and held accountable this president. You and I both know all they have to do is shut down the government and quit funding the persecution of Donald Trump, quit funding the madness that is this administration, and hold him to account. I don't know if it's too late in the political game to do that, but that certainly should have been done. And give us your thought about your current leadership. What's going on? He seems to have a compromise and a discussion with Biden, and the next thing you know, somebody's got a deal, and it doesn't look like it's a deal for the Republicans.
Well, certainly it's not a deal that I supported. I voted no earlier today on this deal, so-called. But let me just say this. The House did pass a thing called H.R. 2. Now, we shouldn't characterize it that way because people don't know what H.R. 2 is, but it was the most robust border security bill ever passed out of the halls of Congress. We sent it to the Senate.
Yeah.
The Senate said it was dead on arrival, won't take it up. And then this, in the waning hours here of a couple months ago, they tried to send us something that they called border security, which would enshrine into law the lawlessness occurring at the border, where we couldn't do anything, trying to hamstring the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, from doing anything on the border until 5,000 people a day came illegally. And somehow the media still characterizes that as border security. We have passed something through the House. The fact that Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden won't countenance is, that's another part of the equation, which we can discuss. But the House has done its job in that regard. Now, I would agree.
I don't want to discuss it.
I would agree with you.
I don't want to talk about it. HR 2 is history. It didn't get passed, and now, as I just said, the only options available to the 118th Congress is to do something
to stop funding
and direct, and exactly, and that is the one thing that would work, and I think it's the only thing I know of that would work.
Well, as you know, the Speaker has said, well, if we get into a shutdown, there's no way to get out. And look, it's not the tack that I would take. But I think that we shouldn't fund this government that is lawless, that is leaving the border wide open. We have another young lady dead on the American streets at the hands of somebody here illegally. It's completely preventable. We have the persecution of the former president of the United States and the persecution of American citizens who attend the Catholic Mass, that's given a certain way. The persecution of Americans who dare to go, have the temerity to go to their school board meeting, and they get a threat tag issued to them from the Department of Justice or the FBI because they're called domestic extremists. Meanwhile, in Dearborn, Michigan, after the attack in Israel, they go to the theater named after Henry Ford and decry how great the massacre of 1,300 Jews is, and apparently the Department of Justice doesn't see any problem with that. So I don't think we should fund this lawlessness. But again, I'm one voice here, I'm one vote, and unfortunately, my side in that didn't prevail.
Well, what I do hope prevails is that President Donald J. Trump wins that election on November 5th and saves the republic, because the rest of it's going to be side theater if he does not. As always, Congressman, we appreciate talking with you. We wish you the best of luck. I know it's a complex and difficult situation for the Republicans with basically what is a one-vote majority. Meanwhile, that leaves us that election on November 5th is the way to begin cleaning this place up.
You're too kind, Lou. It's not that complex. Just do the things you said you were going to do. We all, as Republicans, said we wanted to secure the border. We wanted to stop the FBI and the intelligence agencies from spying on America, and we wanted to stop the bankrupting of America. Yet Republicans don't seem to be able to vote for those things, and I don't understand why. It's not complicated.
Not complicated. I stand corrected. Congressman Scott Perry, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lou. God bless you.
You too. God bless. Coming up, Putin warns the West that nuclear war is a real possibility. Did anybody really think that NATO could go into Ukraine without annoying, at the very least, and deeply upsetting Vladimir Putin? Western elites appear unperturbed by the doomsday scenario that has been staring them square in the face. Where is the leadership? It's not in Europe, and it's sure not in this country. James O'Keefe's media group confronting total creep New York Judge Arthur Engoron early in the morning, after sources tell him that Engoron goes to the gym to creep out girls. James O'Keefe joins us here next. Stay with us.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
And welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin warning that nuclear war is on the table if the West sends NATO into Ukraine. Quote, this is very dangerous because it could actually trigger the use of nuclear weapons, Putin said. Do they not understand that? They do seem to understand, but they seem to not care. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is testifying before the House Armed Services Committee today. Austin conceded that he, quote, didn't handle it right when he was recently hospitalized and kept from the public view and the view of top government officials. Austin assured lawmakers that he had learned his lesson, that there was never a break in command and control, and he seemed to blame his staff for it and all that went down. That seems to be the Washington way, even the way of military leaders. Rest assured that amid the shadow of nuclear war, Americans are in completely incompetent hands. Investigative journalist James O'Keefe is at it again. O'Keefe dropped a brand new video as part of his On the Inside series, which he launched with his new organization, the O'Keefe Media Group. This episode has a target, and the target is creepy Arthur Engoron, the New York City judge who handed President Trump a $354 million fine. Extraordinary Marxist madness on the part of the judge and indeed the entire New York judiciary. That judgment was from the civil fraud case brought by the radical Marxist Attorney General Letitia James. The entire case, of course, a scam, a Soviet-style attack on our system and on President Trump in particular. It told millions of business owners all across the country, if you're there, get out of New York, and if you're not, don't go. Don't do business there. Thanks to people like Tish James and Judge Engoron, the Marxist Dems left has proven it will destroy everything a person has built if they don't have the right political views. And that should read Marxist Dem. Here is part of O'Keefe's video. Notice how Engoron creeps on a poor woman just trying to get some exercise at the gym early in the morning.
Multiple sources reached out to us about Arthur Engoron, the judge in Manhattan who fined Trump $354 million in damages, barring him from running businesses in New York City for 3 years. One source even sent us a video saying that Arthur Engoron creeps girls out in an Equinox gym in Long Island. At the end of the clip, the woman is visibly annoyed by the judge and tells him to back off, gesturing with her hands. Other sources confirmed the Equinox he works out in at 5 a.m. is in Great Neck, New York, so we decided to work out alongside him. I'm a huge fan. Huge fan. Thank you for what you did. Thank you so much. For what? Thank you for what you did. Man, that must have felt good. Oh, shit. Making these modern people out of the state. Just thank you. About my heart.
And joining us now, the author, if you will, of that video with Judge Arthur Engeron. And I have to say, James O'Keefe, that was splendid stuff. Give us your impression of the good, the really bad judge.
Well, my impression was, Lou, that I got a lot of sources that reach out to me inside of basically everywhere, and a number of sources reached out to me from that Equinox gym in Great Neck, New York. A couple guys watching him creep out girls, that was their view of it, and women pushing him away. And it seems to me that after he got his judgment or verdict or whatever you want to call it, the fine, he has an increased sense of confidence and libido. And I went up to him and trying to inspire other people to kind of do the same thing. I said, hey, we got to get these MAGA New York Republicans out of New York. And he smiled and nodded and thanked me and said he was very strong, receiving a lot of hate mail. So he strikes me as a guy who is very full of himself, filled with a newfound sense of confidence that allows him to creep on people there in the gym.
It's amazing to watch that and to see that that fellow, to think he is a New York State judge is just, it's hard to really accept. But then again, I had the same feeling when he delivered that $354 million fine without any evidence, without any crime, without any victim. A remarkable case, a remarkable judge who frankly should be, in my opinion, behind bars for the evil he is doing. You're thinking?
Well, I mean, it's, as someone who's been targeted by the government, as someone who's seen this firsthand, it just seems like we're entering civil war territory when there's, based upon your politics, you're targeted. I doubt he would deliver such a judgment to someone with different politics. It's just a question of getting them to admit that. That's what we want to accomplish. Yeah. And Lou, in the video, you see this. One of the videos was taken by me. Another video was taken by a gym member there. And every single day, women are brushing him away, literally telling him to back off. Now, there's nothing wrong with guys hitting on girls, although he's a 74-year-old, 3 times divorced judge. Apparently, he's got a creepy side, and people don't like it. So I'm encouraging other people to try to record his admissions. We want to know what he's bragging about. This unfairness. Judges in New York cannot be unfair. It is against the rules, against the law for them to do that. So that's obviously what we're trying to get on tape.
And I think that's a noble cause. But the reality is, in New York, there is no law that a Marxist Dem can't break with impunity and do daily. It's a very tough state to get a fair trial at, and he shows you why. I just can't imagine why the country has these kinds of judges who are so, one of the things I just loved was that moment where he was talking about there's a lot of hate out there. There was a lot of hate in that courtroom, and it was all up on the bench, and it was his. This man is a hater, and he is playing to the crowd.
I hear you that there's no justice, even if he does break the rules. One would think that, well, there's no accountability. But I think the accountability, Lou, comes from catching them on tape. That's the accountability now. It's the admission. The incontrovertible evidence of an admission of unfairness matters. Now, he might say that behind closed doors. He might say that to his girlfriend. Evidently, this guy has a lot of girlfriends. That's fine. But he might admit this to people in private. And that's precisely the goal here in this country, is to get these admissions. And while it might not lead him to face accountability in a New York court legal situation, it will open up certain people's eyes to the unfairness. It'll wake at least a few people up on the boundaries here, and that's what matters. That's the only thing that matters. To your point, there is no justice in the state of New York. There can't be any justice, but people can wake up and rise up, and that's what really matters.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, and the reality is that it makes great entertainment, James, as you well know. It is at the same time to watch this judge who was sitting up on the bench in black robes now, in a gym at 5:30 in the morning, creeping women out is outrageous. And he shows you what a lowlife he truly is. And there is something wrong with the man's self-perception, clearly, if he can do that. And secondly, if he can actually sleep at night after viciously attacking President Trump without evidence, without crime, without victim.
I felt, as someone who's in these situations hundreds of times, I felt in the air. This is in Great Neck, New York. For those of you who are not familiar, that's just about a few miles east of New York City, just on the outskirts suburbs. I definitely felt a spiritual, it was a very spiritually dark place. I mean, I just felt unsafe, uncomfortable being around him and being around all of those people in the gym, many of which were kind of protecting him. And I knew that it was dangerous for me to be there, dangerous for me to even be talking to him, and frankly, dangerous for me to set foot in the state of New York, where you could get sued or arrested and falsely accused. So I would have pushed it farther, but I am calling on a lot of these women. Lou, I've received 40 tips in the last 2 days from people who've dated him, been creeped on by him. So I'm calling on the citizens of this country to keep their eyes and ears about them and to take out their phone and record those moments. It is a question of character. And obviously this guy has a newfound ego from his victory. That is just not okay for a judge to be behaving like that.
No, it is not okay, and it is very much okay, and indeed enthusiastically affirmed your mission, which is to keep us up to date and to bring us those wonderful videos that you do. And I have to say, I enjoyed this one immensely, as I do all of them, but particularly this one because it's he's the most recent dark character in our body politic. And James O'Keefe, we thank you for getting that video and to bring us your perspective. Thanks so much, and all best, my friend.
Thanks, Will.
James O'Keefe.
All right.
Thank you. Up next, damning text messages from Nathan Wade's attorney. He has an attorney, too. Isn't that funny how that works? And he reveals he lied in court. But then they're all lying, it seems, at least the three of them, Nathan Wade, Fani Willis, and Wade's attorney. He's a divorce attorney. Isn't that odd? And they also proved the smoking gun detail about his relationship with Fani Willis. We are going to have all of the salacious details and the facts next. And by the way, Just the News, John Solomon joins us next.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow. Towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
And welcome back. California Governor Gavin Newsom continues to push his woke ideology into law. Newsom raised the minimum wage for fast food workers in his state from $16 to $20. That's very good, except for those who donate big bucks to his campaign. Turns out Panera Bread is among them. Panera Bread has been exempt from that law after the billionaire franchise owner, Greg Flynn, made a big donation totaling more than $160,000. Newsom didn't even bother to hide the corruption. Flynn spoke out against the wage race, and rightfully so. It hurts job seekers, owners, the consumers, but it sure does help out those workers. But Newsom isn't the only Democrat with a hidden Marxist agenda. Last week, squad members Ilhan Omar and Pramila Jayapal traveled to Cuba during the recess. What a wonderful vacation. And why were they there, fraternizing with the enemy? Well, of course, we may never learn the detailed truth. That mysterious trip, heavily criticized by Republicans. Representative Malotekis calling the pair out on X for visiting a country that jails, abuses, murders their citizens on top of supporting communist regimes. The squad members have both backed bills to normalize relations with Cuba. It's been under U.S. embargo for more than 60 years now. How's that working out? Well, turning now to the latest on Fani Willis, and everyone wants to turn now to what's going on with Fani Willis. Damning new text messages released and dissected by the Megyn Kelly show yesterday. The texts, 413 of them, reveal exchanges between Terrence Bradley and Ashley Merchant, Nathan Wade's divorce attorney and Trump's co-defendant. They essentially confirm Willis's affair with Wade. Merchant asked, "Do you think the affair started before she hired him?" To which Bradley replied, "Absolutely. It started when she left the DA's office and was judge in South Fulton." So if the 2 months ago he was absolutely sure, why couldn't he recall it on the stand just the other day?
When you told me that their relationship started when she left the DA's office and was a judge in South Fulton, where did you obtain that knowledge from?
I was speculating.
But Willis is taking heat for more than just her improper relationship. Breitbart exposing the messy prosecutor's extreme diversity, equity, and inclusion training. It included ranking judges, mind you, based on their skin color and associating the word white with bad and black, of course, with good. Do we need any more reasons to discredit her? Do we need any more lessons in the value of DEI and what it's doing, this toxic DEI, across our country? She is accomplishing all of that on her own. John Solomon joins us now, investigative journalist, the founder of Just the News. And John, great to have you with us. I suppose we could begin by asking, it's great to have you here, my friend, asking you what you think of Fani Willis and Nathan Wade and his divorce attorney and the perjury and the ethical, they're not lapses, they're leaps in that Fulton County DA office.
Listen, I think most Americans will look at the body of evidence that was presented on television, presented in the cross-examination, and say that's not what we expect in our prosecutorial offices. We don't expect Peyton's Place. We expect Lady Justice to be treated with reverence. We don't expect disingenuous answers, and I don't recalls, and I'm not sures, and I'm not going to answer from the people who are charged with upholding the law in Georgia. And I think that's the first part. But beyond the sex, beyond the conflicts of interest, beyond all the things that are already in the record in front of us, the single most important thing we still need to get to is why was it that Fani Willis's office and Wade himself had contacts with the Biden White House. The billing records say they had contacts with the Biden White House. They, in 2 court appearances that most people have not noticed, the Fulton County District Attorney Office said they do have 2 records of contacts with the Biden White House while they were investigating Donald Trump. Why is the Biden White House communicating with any prosecutorial office pursuing their chief Republican rival in the 2024 election? That is the single most important question we must still need to answer. Unless you have doubt that Joe Biden had no problem putting his finger in the drink of a prosecutor, please remember what I reported last summer. I was able to get an email showing from the National Archives that it was Joe Biden's White House that told the archives to sic the FBI on Donald Trump in the classified records case. They literally told the National Archives, hey, send all those documents Donald Trump gave you and send it over to the FBI and see if they'll start a criminal investigation. So there's already a pattern in practice here of the Biden White House having law enforcement contacts, trying to encourage a criminal investigation of their rival. This is stuff that's normally reserved for banana republics, but now it's right here in America. The next phase of this is understanding what was communicated, what was being met, what was being discussed, whether evidence was changing hand from the Biden White House and this office. That'll be the next important thing we need to know about Fani Willis.
Fani Willis and all that is unfolded in that hearing room. The judge, Scott McAfee, who I thought looked intimidated and a bit worried, suddenly making strong decisions that required a spine and integrity as well, and that's good to see. And now Fani Willis and Nathan Wade they're going before the state ethics board, and they're going to have a lot to answer for. Do you think that they will be disbarred?
I think there's a very good chance if some of these issues can be resolved, if there could be proven that there are contacts between the White House and them, that they could face disciplinary action against their license, much like what happened a few years ago in Missouri when the St. Louis, the Soros-funded prosecutor there, who tried to take down a Republican governor with false allegations, she got in significant trouble with her bar as well. So, yes, I do think there's a strong possibility of that. I don't think we're at the bottom of the evidence well yet. I think there's a lot more to go. Last week, I filed a lawsuit with American First Legal to try to force the disclosure of these White House documents and contacts. That's just one piece of a puzzle we still have to put together. I think we are only at the surface of a much deeper scandal involving this district attorney's office.
And that scandal seems to widen and broaden, and the central question to me is truly, what does this do to their persecution? Because it is that, their prosecution of Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, listen, and I think there's another element here, which is all issues related to criminality that stem from President Trump's time as office, which involves the January 6 cases, possibly the classified document cases. They may all have to be put on pause now that the United States Supreme Court made the momentous decision last night to accept his immunity claims, giving them enough merit to have hearings in April and a decision later in the summer. That could put all these things and freeze them in time. So you could have this going on, this disciplinary issue, and digging into what Fani Willis was doing, and then the Supreme Court. I think these criminal cases are beginning to slow down. I think most American voters think that's a good thing, because these feel very un-American right now. It doesn't matter where it's Donald Trump or if the shoe was flipped and Donald Trump was pursuing Joe Biden. It doesn't feel American that we see political rivals pursuing their opponents in the courts, not in the electoral box.
You know, I truly think that Jack Smith made a huge mistake when he sought to have the Supreme Court clarify absolute immunity or any gradation thereof for immunity, because here he is persecuting Donald Trump. He has been doing so throughout, whether it be the January 6th issue or the documents case, whatever it may be. The reality, he's been persecuting Donald Trump and demanding, and he prodded, I thought, the Supreme Court with insisting on a ruling on immunity. They dismissed him at the back of their hand and sent it back to the appellate court. I just have to believe right now that this court may decide that immunity is the only way you can have a chief executive who can stave off these hyenas like Biden, Merrick Garland, and Jack Smith, and go through the list. Letitia James, Alvin Bragg in New York, Fani Willis in Fulton County.
Yeah, listen, for most of our history in law schools, our lawyers and our future prosecutors, our future judges are taught that Lady Justice is supposed to be deliberate and fair and thoughtful. And what you've seen in the last couple of years is that Lady Justice has been rushed on a political time clock to try to get Donald Trump before the election. It's so apparent. Americans are so much more perceptive than the Democrats give them credit for. They can see this for what it is, what it looks like. It's rushed. It's not deliberate. And I think that in the end, these things have boomeranged on the Democrats. Donald Trump has only gone up in popularity. He's only solidified his control of the Republican Party. He's only been assured of a third Republican nomination. The more the Democrats attack him, it feels more like going after an opposition leader in a third world country than it does America right now. And I think America's reaction, their embrace of Donald Trump, the rejection of Joe Biden, is somehow driven by some of these perceptions that are visceral to us. It doesn't feel like America, what we're watching play out in these courtrooms.
Yeah. And especially when over the course of 7 elections in this primary season, this president has garnered more votes than all of the Democratic candidates combined. It has a ring of something else too, and that is a ring of trying to stop the man who is the presumptive nominee and the most likely by far man to retake the presidency on November 5th. There's a lot of dismissal to this idea of election interference, but that's precisely what it is, in my opinion, John. You get the
listen, there are clear.
That.
We've had election interference in 2022 when those 51 intelligence agents falsely attested to the idea that the Hunter Biden laptop, which contained all of this information of Biden influence peddling, was Russian disinformation without an iota of evidence. That was election interference, and it was orchestrated by Joe Biden's campaign. When in 2019 they tried to portray my stories about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and Ukraine and Burisma as Russian disinformation, that was election interference. They deprived the American public of being able to make an informed decision. In 2024, they've escalated that election interference to efforts in the courts and efforts in a public character assassination. But I think the American public is just way too wise to it. They see it for what it is, and they're beginning to reject it. Even if they're Democrats, I hear more and more Democrats saying, I don't feel good about my party right now. Not just the direction of the company, but the way they're trying to win this election. Now, there's a base that will love it, and the MSNBC crowd, that tribe will, bang their pans and pots and be happy. But mainstream Democrats and independents, and of course all Republicans, seem to be really sickened by it.
Sick and tired. I think you're exactly right, and ready for President Trump to return to the White House and save this republic. Please join us each and every day. That's right, 7 days a week on my podcast, The Great America Show. That's right, we tell it like it is. Great America Show. Available at LouDobbs.com, wherever you get your podcast. The Great America Show awaits you. We are delighted to be of service. And thank you for being with us. Join us here tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central. The CEO of Key Square Capital Management, Scott Bessent, joins us. We'll be talking about what are the elites up to, and are they really moving toward Donald Trump? We'll take that up. You don't want to miss it. And the Lindell Report is next. You don't want to miss that either. Mike, over to you, and good night, folks. God bless you.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
I still feel